And we are live. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Mo Crosby from Earth 2 Comic Cast, and I'm back with another live group chat for you. And this one is the Star Wars Rebels discussion. We have 4 episodes, and in these 4 episodes, Grand Admiral Thrawn is back, and he's back looking cool, just as cool as ever. We have Loth Wolves and White Loaf Cat, so this should be a really, really interesting discussion. Before I start the discussion, I always have guests to do this with me, and well, one of them you already know, as always, is Patrick from Uncle's Games. Yes, Uncle's Games / Earth 2 Comic Cast. Yeah, it's Patrick. Yeah. And Patrick brought a friend today, so I'll let Patrick's friends go ahead and introduce himself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Kyle. I'm from Spokane, Washington. Also part of Uncle's Games with Patrick, but I do a lot of film stuff too, so I'm way excited to be part of the chat today.
Fantastic. This is going to be a fun one. So before we get right into the discussion about Rebels, we're going to start off with the most interesting news that dropped today. So out of nowhere, this any one of you guys, were you guys expecting this?
No, I mean, no, not at all.
Especially not a trilogy, right? I mean, that's really
trilogy,
exactly. That's
and a
crazy.
TV show, like, they're giving this, what's his name?
Yeah, so Ryan Johnson? Ryan?
They're giving him a lot of power, like a lot of authority over. Hope
so
Dave Filoni would get. Remember we were talking about how much.
Yes, exactly. Last time we talked about this, we were hoping Filoni would be getting some live action handle on the property, but I guess Disney, Lucasfilms, is looking a different way, because maybe episode 8 is testing out the roof. So they're like, why not, right?
Yeah. Well, I know that they said that episode 9. Episode 9 is gonna like loop back all the way back to like the prequel stuff somehow.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, because my understanding was that they were just gonna make more Star Wars. Like there would be an episode 10, episode 11, episode 12, and that would be like the next trilogy. Like I thought forever that were the main story. And
because my understanding, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Star Wars. Well, I thought then they would have all these a Star Wars story one-off.
Solo.
Yeah, like Solo, a Star Wars story, one a Star Wars story, Boba Fett, a Star Wars story, whatever.
Jar Jar Binks, a Star Wars story.
Yeah. Darth Maul, a Star Wars story.
I think it makes a lot of sense, though. I mean, let's think about it. Like, it seems like these things keep getting longer. And I feel like if we want like Boba Fett to have justice done, or Obi-Wan, for example, they're going to need more than one film. So they either do it in a trilogy, or maybe they do it kind of like they're doing with Hulk, where they have a little bit of that in Thor 3, right? And we can throw some more Hulk in a future movie. But I prefer kind of this kind of focused and also a little bit longer. Let these characters grow. It doesn't really bother me. I'm kind of excited, honestly.
It bothers me.
I am with Patrick on this one, though. Like, I am with Patrick on this one.
It reminds me of The Hobbit.
That's what it reminds me of. Why? It feels kind of forced?
Yeah, it feels kind of well, it feels like they're making money.
I mean, it is Disney.
I think they make money either way, man. I mean, whether they're independent films or a trilogy, it's not like people aren't going to go see a Star Wars movie.
This is true.
Sure, but are they taking something that was supposed to be like one movie and stretching? I don't know. It's interesting too, because they said it's going to be a whole different part of the universe.
More about it.
Completely different characters. Like, could we be looking at? Isn't Thrawn like from a whole other part of the universe or something like that? Could there be a Thrawn connection?
Yes. He's one of the coolest people I've seen. Right. I mean, you can go ahead. I wouldn't mind seeing a live action version of Thrawn.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing.
But to be honest,
never been explored ever, or just never explored on the big screen, and that's a big difference, right? I mean, the books and the EU have covered a lot of ground over time.
This is true, and what I heard, this is rumor, or what I've heard from some people is they wouldn't mind seeing Old Republic done, and I'm like, but Old Republic isn't necessarily canon, right?
Not anymore.
Not
Yeah.
again. Yeah, not right
Exactly.
now.
So yeah, so I don't know if I'd see that, but I mean, I am iffy about it. I'm maybe if I think about it some more. Again, it just happened, and okay, so that's the movie news. What about the live action TV show that's going to be going on the Disney streaming network? What do you think about
That's
that?
going to be a real challenge because part of Star Wars is scale, and
Mhm.
there's some advantage to the fact that everything that hasn't been at that scale has been a cartoon, like Clone
Mhm.
Wars and Rebels, because it makes it a little bit easier. I don't know. Star Wars to me is always very grand and big.
Mhm.
So having an ongoing show that's live action, I'm not saying it won't be good. It could be amazing,
I mean,
but I
because we
think it's
have Discovery, which is
more challenging than we
grand,
think.
somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but Star Trek is built out of TV. You know what I mean? Star Wars
Right,
is built
right,
out
right.
of film. I think you think that Star Trek Discovery has been critically looked at? I think the Star Wars TV show will be very critically looked at.
Ooh,
I
I
think it
can't
depends
wait.
on
But
their
then
ambition,
again, it is
really.
Disney. I feel like they're very immune to people looking at them under a microscope. Let's be honest. And again, so now the other question I have based on this TV show, do you think it's going to be as mature as say like a Discovery, or as mature as say the Clone Wars versus the Rebels? Are they going to go Rebels route, or like Marvel Netflix stuff? Or because again, since it's based on
I
a
think
Disney.
if they go mature, it's going to be more okay than even Discovery going mature because they do have Rebels and they are going to have another Filoni cartoon. So they'll kind of
Mhm.
like their fiction where they can say, here's the young adult fiction and here's the adult fiction. They'll at least be able to say, here's the young adult Star Wars and here's the adult Star Wars.
Okay,
They'll
that
be able
makes
to
sense.
get away with it
I'm
a little
hoping they go the
easier.
route of kind of the Marvel Netflix, where they're not afraid to go definitely a grown up audience, if you will. I think it'd be a mistake to tone it down too much being live action. If they're going to get
Well,
criticism, that's the route I think that's going to give them
okay,
the
so you
most
got
negative review.
so we're
I
all
mean, Harrison killed some kids. He killed some
he
younglings.
did, but again, that was before they went to Disney, so I don't think Disney would have let them do that, because Clone Wars didn't end the way everyone wanted it or thought it was going to end, because I think at that point Disney already got the property, right?
I think by the time Netflix did that, but I think it had already written, but Netflix got the right to make those last lost episodes or whatever. I don't know how that'll
Yes,
work. Anthony knows way more on
yes.
that.
Well, anyways, yeah, Anthony knows whenever, if he ever does decide to drop in on this, he'll probably fill us in on that when he comes in. But anyways, let's get into Rebels. We had 4 episodes this week. Well, in the past couple of weeks, we had Rebels number 5 was The Occupation. Rebels number 6 was Fight of the Defender. Rebels number 7 was Kindred, and Rebels number 8 was Crawl Commander. In Rebels 5, The Occupation, Ryder had sent a message to Yavin saying, "Hey, look, I found there's this rebel base. I'm sorry, there's this base, there's this plant where they're building a new type of TIE fighter. So, and you guys might want to come check it out." And before his message cuts off, and of course, it's this is on Lothal, and so we know Ezra is going to go. He signs up for the mission. And then the rest of the crew decide, the rest of the Ghost crew says like, yo, we're going to go, because I think Mothma was like, Ezra, you're definitely going on the mission by yourself. And then the rest of the Ghost crew is like, no, you're not. We're going with you. And so they go with him, and it was really cool. So they get to, they had, what's his name? The smuggler.
So when he goes, he's
Zaga.
just going to, when he's going, he's just going to collect information and come back, right?
Yes, that's the crux of the mission. But we ended up spending 3 more episodes after that on Lothal. Yeah. So
and maybe
yeah,
and more, right? Because the next
it looks
episode,
like it's gonna be more. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be more. But yeah, the mission, as General Mothma says, is, hey, just go recon and come back, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do. Excuse me. So they go to Lothal. and they happen to ask Vizago to help smuggle them into Lothal, and I thought it was pretty cool. So, for his payment, they give him pigs, and Vizago is just like, because he's enthralled with the pigs, he's in love with it, so he's like, yeah, I agree. And every time, again, easy looking mission is never that easy with the screw. It always starts off super easy and then turns around and it's like boom, fight. So the first hiccup.
Have we seen those pigs before? I couldn't. It seemed like there was some back.
I think they were in the Lando episode, if I remember right.
Oh, okay.
Very early one.
I might have to go back and look at that. But yeah, I might have to go back and look at that. So when I'm putting this episode up tomorrow or for the on the website, I would, if I have that episode or that screenshot, I will screen grab it, and that'll be the feature image for the episode. So yeah, so they get to Lothal, and obviously, of course, the Empire's like, look, we know there's something up with your ship. Let's come on board and look at it. They come on board, they look at it. Of course, our guys escape. Vizago's captured, or arrested, pretty much, and so Ezra is like, look, Lothal doesn't look the same. It's burned out. It's, what is the Empire doing on here? What can they be possibly doing on here? And they're going. Hera and Kanan share a moment, and it was pretty cool. So I think we might be looking at either Kanan's future, because if he's going emotional, if he's doing the whole emotional connection with Hera, his end, where does he die? Doesn't that change him from being a Jedi or a Jedi Knight or part of the Jedi Order, right? Because you can't necessarily be emotionally connected to someone in that manner.
I wasn't even thinking about that fact. I forgot that like Jedi can't, fall in love and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I don't think. Who's gonna yell at him?
Yeah, right. You're breaking the rules, man.
Yeah, you're right. At this point, no one can talk him. You could talk to him, so he's kind of Teflon. But so we move past, and then we have, so that's Kanan and Hera, and Ezra, Sabine, and I think Chopper go to an old nightclub on, I think it was called Joe's Bar or whatever, on Lothal, and it's now owned by somebody else, by someone who they know, and I believe they've known this guy from the episode when they went to the school where they were training. The Empire was training the pilots. What's his name?
Wasn't it Valen Rudor, I think?
Yes, yeah, Valen Rudor. So
I wanted that to be your pal.
Well, I think, wasn't Rudor the one when they went to the parade and he was there next to the TIE Advanced prototype, kind of showing off there? Because the guy with the mustache that we see in the TIE Defender Advanced a couple episodes later, I think he was the one that destroyed the transport earlier.
That guy's like all
yes.
All bad things always happen to that guy. I was excited to see Zuko back in this episode. I guess we got
that was really cool. I thought that was awesome. So we move from there, and they finally, and while they're in the bar, they meet Jaikel or whatever, and he saves them from Rudor, because at the end of the day, they have a drink and they're walking out. It's like, hey, oh, how dare you? How dare you come in my bar and not pay for your drink? Jaikel, someone that I think, someone who Ezra knows from, native to Lothal.
He was a pilot with him, right?
That was the pilot from the school.
Yeah, remember when he snuck into the school?
Yeah, when he snuck, that was the pilot. So
it's Zuko's voice from Avatar.
Yeah.
Floating Love.
Really?
Yeah. No, my kids were like ecstatic. They're like, it's Zuko.
Nice. So yeah, that happens, and we're done with that, and so they get into the sewer, and of course, a lot of fights happen, but they find. So at first they think Ryder has been captured, was dead, but Ryder left messages in the sewer for them, and so they find him and they're safe. So we move on to the next episode, Fight of the Defender. In this episode,
about The markings, though, is that showing one interesting thing about the markings in the tunnels is it's showing how that rebel symbol is like spreading.
Yes. So I thought about that and I forgot to write that down. Yeah, so the rebel symbol is definitely spreading, and so but the rebel presence on Lothal is kind of thinning, if I could say that, because
well, it definitely is showing how Lothal is like Lothal is almost being used as a proxy for us to understand the transformation. I was thinking about this a lot. It's showing the transformation from Republic era to Imperial era and how that's affecting planets. And so we've kind of watched each season almost. Each season we go back to Lothal, the change gradually. And now, like if you were to look at Lothal in that first episode when Rebels starts to where it is now, it's a dramatic difference.
It's very different. Now, so moving on to the next episode, we get Fight for the Defender. So this is the actual mission. This is when they're actually on the mission. They're supposed to be reconning and whatnot. So they end up splitting up again because somehow someone decides, hey, let's go closer to let's go take a closer look. And I think it was Sabine. Sabine's like, let's go take a closer look.
Idea.
Yeah, of course.
Because crazy Mandalorian.
Exactly. She's like, let's go take a closer look. And then, so while we're taking a closer look at this point, she's like, hey, you know what we're going to do? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get in this thing. So you know what? Try to help me, help me distract the guards and let me get in this thing. So what do they do? So this is where I think something is changing for Ezra, because his connection to the animals, or he's starting to have a different connection with animals, or has he always had that kind of connection with animals?
He's always had a connection with animals. Remember, all the way back to the first season, him and Kanan get like trapped in some evil cave, and there's like bad guy animals, and he's able to call them off or something. And then the space whales episode.
He's always he's like the closest we have to the old used kind of Jedi Beastmaster, if you will. Like very much a connection to creatures through the Force.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
but it's getting a lot stronger. I mean, evident from these episodes, it looks like the connection is becoming super, super strong. But so he does, somehow the Loth cats, distract the guards, and Sabine is able to sneak up onto the new the TIE Fighter Advanced, and it's a pretty cool TIE Fighter. I kid you not. So
TIE Defender.
Huh?
It's a TIE Defender. Kyle's gonna get mad at you. He's really into the ship.
Oh no, I'm not gonna get mad at all, because it has the silliest name. It's the TIE Defender Elite, right? Because they can't say, because they've already used TIE Advance and TIE Advance Prototype.
So it's TIE Defender.
Wait.
Gotcha.
So we haven't had.
TIE Defender
Elite.
Elite,
the first time a TIE Defender's shown up, because they act like they've seen a TIE Defender before.
They have seen TIE Defenders.
Really?
Yeah, they disable the one. There's the kind of the two Y-wings by the Nebula.
Oh, yeah.
Where they fight it the first time.
Kyle, how do you feel about the fact that because a lot of these ships were supposed to be developed in that era between New Hope and Return of the Jedi, like originally, or like in the
right,
whatever, and now it's like all those ships exist at the start of New Hope. Like, how do you feel? Does it feel weird that like the Death Star is the super powerful battle station, but it doesn't have any of these advanced TIE fighters or anything, other than, I guess that's Vader's TIE Advance, but
it doesn't bother me at all. And I'll tell you why, because I think they've been very clever in kind of two areas. One, they've made clear that the rebellion's made up of all these cells, which gives them opportunity to tell a lot of semi-connected and yet independent stories. But we get the same thing with this idea of weapons projects, right? Where it becomes clear, even in like a little bit of dialogue in Rogue One, where they're going through the database trying to find the Death Star plans, that the Empire actually has tons of weapons projects. And they've made clear that, for example, the Defender, Thrawn's goal, not really anyone else's, that's his project. And so if you look at it in one way, the Empire is having all of these kind of, and it's very Sith in a way too, all these competing ideas and projects going on. Who's going to be the most successful? Who's going to be the one that impresses the Emperor the most to have their project elevated?
That's interesting. I never thought about it as like Thrawn's little pet project.
That is very interesting, and I think Actually, in this episode, or maybe this episode and the next, we get to see more of it being Thrawn's pet project, and he's super like I think he's very, very involved in it. So if you Kyle might be right. This is very Thrawn. This is like, aside from the rest of the Empire. Right? Is that what we're talking about?
By the way,
yeah, it's like part of the Empire, but it's Thrawn's project. This is his thing to like impress the Emperor. Yeah,
gotcha. Makes sense. That makes sense.
Kyle's kind of like the ship expert.
Anyway, so we actually see. Go ahead.
I'm gonna have to mute myself for a few minutes, so I'll be offline. Okay. You and Kyle for a few minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about the episodes before we get into actually. I'm just gonna run through it. So yeah. We see the the TIE Defender.
Yeah, TIE Defender.
Gotcha. We see the TIE Defender in flight, and it's pretty awesome. I thought it was the best. It's the best thing that hasn't really existed, because if this mission goes the way it's supposed to go, that's why we don't see it in A New Hope. True. And because Patrick was saying the reason, so this is going to connect to why we don't see it. So I think it's great that we're seeing all these things happen now. And the way they're explaining it is, by the time we get to the New Hope, we don't see any of these things, because the Rebel Alliance and the Rebel forces have already started working and like cutting off the what's it called? The Empire. They started So we see the fighter. The Defender, and it's really, really beautiful. And I think the pilot was Volt Scaris.
I think you're right. Yeah, the guy with the mustache, because it's Star Wars, right? You got to have a ridiculous mustache.
I mean, you have to stick to that time period. I don't care what anyone says. So, even in the animation, in an animated universe, you still have to give them their ridiculous mustache. But yeah, so Bolt Scares hops out, and Sabine hops into the TIE fighter, the TIE Defender, and she goes, "Wow, this thing it's more impressive than I thought." So. Our mission, again, their mission was to observe, but now she's changed the mission parameters where she's like, I'm not observing anymore. I want to take the the flight computer. Yep. And so while she's trying to steal the flight computers, it ends up that Grand Admiral Thrawn lands down and he's like, yeah, I want to see my my TIE fly. I want to see my TIE Defender do its thing. And right before, she's like, you know what, I have a plan. And so I'm just gonna, we're just gonna fly this thing out of here, and I'm gonna fly it out of here. That way I can do what I need to do and get what I need to get out of it. And when in the most cool bad guy thing ever, I think this is why I love Thrawn so much. Like, he's just so cool. Like, no matter what's going on, he's really cool, and he does the most typical bad guy move. Any bad guy move when you're watching a movie, and the cars, someone is in a car driving at them and they're just standing really cool and blasting at it. Yep. He does the exact same thing. He does the exact same bad guy move. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. That, and that just shows, the level of just how cool he is to me. I think he's really cool. I like the bad guys, if you didn't know that already. So yeah, he looked really cool doing that. So they fly the TIE Defender out, and Sabine manages to pull the flight computer, but then she notices that it has a hyperdrive. And so she's like, oh, in this case, we can steal the hyperdrive and then put it on Ryder's vessel or Ryder's ship and fly out of here so we can get to Yavin with the information we need to get to. And of course, again, things don't go as planned always for them. It sounds really easy, but obviously things don't go as planned. Grand Admiral Thrawn is like, first of all, he really wanted to see the TIE Defender do its thing. So they send a couple fighters out there and they take him out. And then someone says to him, oh my God, maybe Hera's the one flying in. And just, again, how cool is it that he has studied his enemy so much that he knows who's who? And he says to the guy, look, yeah, if it was, what does he call it? General Syndulla. I love the
if it was Hera, if it was Captain Syndulla there, it'd be over already.
It'd be over already. This is not, Captain Syndulla. He's like, if it was Captain Syndulla, it'd be over already. So it's not who you think it is. And then he calls for the kill switch. So they kill the Defender, but just as they're about to kill it, Ezra somehow lands it, of course, because he's it's a twink Jedi. He somehow lands it without crashing and dying. They pull Sabine, a twink mechanic, pulls the hyperdrive out, and they carry the hyperdrive. But again, since they split up, Zeb knows what's going on, but he doubles back and he tells Hera, "Hey, look, stuff is going on, stuff is wrong." So Hera again pulls up and says, "Let's go find them." But if so they, Hera and them again. This is another episode where we don't get a lot of Hera and we don't get a lot of Kanan. This is pretty much Sabine, Ezra.
Yep.
Because I think they really want to point, they really wanted to show Ezra's connection to Lothal, one, and to the sacred animals of Lothal. So while they're carrying the hyperdrive, again, Ezra's like, we have to stash this somewhere. Out comes a white Loth cat. Again, a white Loth cat, I think, according to Ezra and according to Lothal, are rare. You see the other Loth cats, but the white Loth cats are rare. And to add to that, we see a white Loth wolf. We see it. Ezra sees it. Sabine doesn't. The white Loth cat shows Ezra where to hide the hyperdrive, and then the Loth wolf comes up to Ezra and Sabine and blows in her face, and she passes out. But it helps them escape. So they've escaped, and they've gone to what's it called? They've gone to they meet up with the others, and the Loth wolf says to Ezra, "Doom." Which again, watching the episode, I thought, oh, this is bad. Doom is Doom. But we get to find out what that is later on. So that's the 2 episodes from a couple weeks ago, and then there's the 2 from this week. I
have one comment I want to make real quick about this last episode in Thrawn, and that is, it was pretty cold sending those 2 Imperial pilots out to fight that defender. If they were dead,
yes.
Right?
Yes, he really tested them out.
How calculating he is, because it's not even a test, right? This is life and death, so he knows his Imperial pilots are going to try to survive, and he just, it's all calculation for him, and yes. I think it was important to show Thrawn that way, and also to kind of remind us how ruthless the Empire is, because they're kind of really building that up. Like, they really see even their own people as disposable. Whole worlds are disposable for them.
That was so that's crazy, because again, you're building a whole Death Star, the whole the Death Star. So yes, they're just ridiculous that way. It's like they're cold, but I really like how calculated and how, like, again, I like that he knows his enemy. Like, he studied his enemy so much that he knows them. He said to them, if Hera, that line actually stood out to me. If Captain Singular was on the TIE Defender, it would have, those fighters wouldn't have stood a chance. The reason they last, he knew that, and so he just wanted to see, again, because I feel like he knew from the beginning that Hera wasn't on there. So yeah, that's one thing. I just really like him. He's just really cool. Like, if you go back to last season when he found out that Agent Callus, again, he knew Agent Callus was Fulcrum. The way he played it so well that he actually made Agent Callus like tell on himself. I just really like what they've done with Thrawn.
Oh yeah, they've made it. He's brilliant, and they've done a good job, I think, showing that for sure.
Yes.
Well, all right. A little weird that he just like sat there while, I don't know. I agree once they had taken the TIE fighter, but he was. There was one line that I thought was a little too far for me, where he was like, "Interesting," while he's just standing there, and I was like, "I'm glad he didn't shoot down the TIE Defender with his little pistol, because if that happened, I'd been like,
if he did, I'd have been like, come on, yeah. That is a little too far, but that's like the basic bad guy move. When you're, any movie, the bad guy is that cool, or that level of cool. When you're driving at him, he's standing there shooting at the car. It's probably not going to do any damage.
A great job of making Thrawn an amazing villain who is nothing like Vader. That, like,
yes.
Credit, they're doing a great job of creating. I didn't read the books with Thrawn in them, so I don't know what he was like in the books, but they're doing a great job of really making him his own. Who's the voice actor too? The voice actor for him is so good.
Yeah, I'll look that up. Yeah, he's really good. Kyle, do you know what Thrawn was like in the books?
He was very calculating in the books, and in fact, I mean, I read the Timothy Zahn, at least the old ones. I haven't read the new Thrawn book, but the character is always very kind of brilliant, calculating. People underestimated him for some reason, which I don't understand. And the other thing I do like, though, is if I had an issue with the original depictions of Thrawn, it's that they tried to diminish Vader in some ways in the comparison with Thrawn directly, but they haven't done that at all in this. Like, it's very much like Thrawn is just awesome, and so is Vader, and I love that. He stands strong without any direct comparisons. Just on his own, he's a very compelling character, and I really like that.
Right. That makes sense. Anyway, so we're now on episode 7, and that's called Kindred. On this episode, we have another Kanan and Hera moment, and in this moment, Kanan and Hera are talking about their pull to Lothal. Like, why is it that no matter where they go, no matter what they do, they always end up on Lothal? Like, even before they met Ezra, they ended up on Lothal. Like, so, he's like referring to that.
This is really interesting, just because I think up until now I thought the whole Lothal thing centered around Ezra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I thought too. But it seems like it's gonna center.
So it seemed like it centered around Ezra, but now it's like they're saying Lothal in some ways centers around Kanan.
I think it's more abstract than that. I think it's that there's something going like this. Is something bigger is happening with the Empire on Lothal than the Defender, and it's something that's connected to the Force. And so it's almost like the Force is hitting, like it's hitting Kanan because Kanan had a connection to the Force. It's hitting Ezra, and it keeps pulling them back there because they're the two vehicles, if you will, that the Force can act through to make a difference on Lothal.
Right. That makes sense. Anyway, so Thrawn and the governor. The governor is looking for the hyperdrive, or looking for for the fighter, and Thrawn dispatches an assassin, Roke.
Rook's awesome.
He's so awesome. He's okay. I don't know, how do I describe him, but anyway, he's like really awesome. But so during this really awesome fight scene that they had, or this awesome bike scene that they had, Roke tags Ezra's bike. I don't know. Okay, so I'm watching that, to be honest. I'm like, Ezra senses everything in this world, but he doesn't sense that his bike has been tagged. Well, again, it's neither here nor there, but I just found a problem, a slight problem with that. And then we get another Kanan, and I feel like now they're really pushing Kanan and Hera together. We get another Kanan and Hera moment where she's like, hey, look, let's talk about our future. When after all of this is done, what's gonna happen? Where are you gonna go? Where are we gonna go? Where am I gonna go? And then Hera's Kanan kiss, and it's like, okay, we're gonna end up together. No, Kanan, you're gonna be dead. So
enjoy it while you can, Kanan.
Right. So the twink mechanic in no time puts connects the hyperdrive to the so they return with the hyperdrive. Zeb returns with the hyperdrive, and so they connect the hyperdrive to the ship. But while they're doing this again, because they've been tagged and now they know where the rebel hideout is, Roke and the governor are coming in. Ezra spots them. And so it's like, we have to split up. And again, this is something I didn't like per se. I'm like, oh well. Anyways, they split up, and Hera, because again she's the pilot, she takes the ship with the hyperdrive and the Navi computer. Was it Navi computer or just the flight computer? The flight computer from the TIE Defender, and she flies out. She's like, I'm gonna get that back to Yavin. I'm gonna get that to the rebel, command.
My god. Dude, Hera's maneuver.
Yes.
That maneuver we got into that was amazing. That was so good. That was so good.
And
stuff right there. How is Hera's pilot card so low pilot skill, Kyle? How?
I don't know. It was a mistake. That's all I can say. It was a mistake. I love the little bit of dialogue where she's like, I'm not worried about the TIE fighters, right? Like, she's such a great pilot. She's like, it's not really them that I'm worried about. And it was fantastic. I love how she did damage before she left. Right. It was spectacular.
Right. And you know what
Well, I
about
could just
what
them,
about
like looking on the radar and being like, she's not going to be able to get up to speed fast enough to like hit her hyperdrive because she's so close to this ship. Because they're just like looking at a picture, like the radar picture of that ship, and then she flies through the ship. Oh, it's genius!
yes,
It makes sense
yes.
to me. It was so
It,
good.
it did make a lot of sense. And going back to episode 6, this is exactly, I think that move shows exactly why General Thrawn knew if I'm sorry, Admiral Thrawn knew if Hera was on that TIE Defender, his TIE fighters did not stand a chance. He could just tell. Like that's exactly why he knew that. So
Hera is officially now the most underrated pilot in Star Wars.
really?
I think she's underrated. I don't think people think of when they're thinking of the best pilots ever in Star Wars. I'm also angry about the game X-Wing having a pilot card with a low pilot skill, but I think she's highly underrated. Highly underrated.
All right. Well, so she flies out. Roke and the governor are now closing in on Ezra and them. Ezra and the.
Did we talk about how Ruck is another character that Filoni has snuck in from the extended universe?
Roke?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in the Thrawn. He was in the Thrawn novel. So like, it is another kind of bringing in one of those legends and giving it a new home and canon. So that's pretty sweet.
I like that Filoni's able to do that. Like he's been given, like, look, we're gonna give you all the characters, or some, we're gonna give you these characters, and you can do what you want with them and tell the story how you want to tell it. And like you said, giving him a new home and new canon. So I like that. So they close in, and while they're about to close in on them, Ezra spots another Loth Wolf, and the Loth Wolf calls on Ezra, and they follow the wolf all the way down into the caves, and
best line
the bombing of the
that's the best line of that might be the best Rebels line ever.
Zeb's line?
Zeb's line when he's like, things are getting weird. The things are getting weird is a good thing, or something like that. That line was like my favorite. I cracked up laughing because he's so right. There was a lot of like little zingers episodes.
Yeah. I love that. So, and so the wolf sends them down the caves, and they're going down these caves, and the wolves stop. It's 3 of them. So the wolves stop and turn around and look at Ezra, and Ezra's like, what do you want? Are you asking me for something? Do you need me for something? And one of the wolves points or noses towards Kanan, and Kanan walks up to the wolf and touches the wolf, and now it's a whole different dynamic, because at first the reason I asked that question in the first couple episodes is because the wolves were pretty much connected to Ezra, not necessarily the rest of the rebels or Kanan. Kanan didn't see them or didn't hear them, and so it was a heavy connection to Ezra. And so now we move from there, and the wolves go deeper into the cave, but one of the wolves has Kanan asked Ezra, so while they're at the bottom of the caves, like, hey, we need to go further, because we're gonna get we're gonna get caved in. And the wolf is like, okay, just grab my tail, grabs the tail, and walks them out. And then
I did not understand what happened there. That was like
that was the most bizarre.
I don't think we're supposed to. And I actually think this is one of the smarter things they've done, because fans, we love to like try and like, what are all the rules of the Force, right? Like, what kind of training does it take for a Jedi to do this, or for a Sith to do that? And I think this was a great episode to remind us that in Star Wars, they don't necessarily really understand everything about the Force, and there's a lot of it that's mystical. And I think that was meant to be like this wondrous thing where it sort of looks like they're going maybe through hyperspace or something when we see the reflection in Ezra's eyes, but there's this weird vision thing before they appear where they're at. So there's all this going on, and I don't think it is supposed to be like a thing where like, okay, this is the rules, this is exactly how we can explain what happened, because you can't.
Okay, so they just said
the Force is bigger than that, and I think I think that was intentional on their part, and I kind of liked it in the sense that it makes us realize we don't know all the rules, if there are rules.
All right. I mean, it was very weird, and it was kind of new, because I've never seen anything like that. It's very new.
I have way more leniency with Star Wars and Star Trek to do whatever the heck whatever. They can do whatever
that's
they want.
That's actually funny that you do, because you give.
In episode 1, they swim through the planet's core or whatever from one side of the planet to the other. So
yeah, I mean, it's always been, it's not really cared about science, right? I mean, let's be real. The space, like all the combat in space is more like, World War II fighter combat or something, and
I just didn't know what was going on, and I was like, what? We're like tripping here. Anyways.
Yeah. And I think you were supposed to feel that way. I think you were supposed
to.
Well,
that was very trippy. If that's the case, then that was very trippy, because they wake up on the other side of the planet, like the whole other side of the planet. So you're asking yourself, how did they get from point A to point B? We're inside of mountains. How did that happen? And like Kyle said, we're just not supposed to know. And so we don't know. So we move past that. And so Ezra, turns to the wolf again, and he looks at the wolf, and the wolf says to him and Kanan at this point, Doom again. And Kanan says, "That's my name." I'm like, again, I was confused. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, that's my name. My name isn't Kanan Jarrus. My name is Caleb Doom or something. Caleb, there was a middle name, I believe, but Caleb Doom, that's my full name. And that's, so I was like, this is crazy. So what does that mean? Again, they don't tell us what it means. They don't tell us why he says that, why the wolf says that. It's just Doom and then disappear into the mountains. I thought that was very funny. But Hera is on Yavin 4, and so we're good. So now
I love the LSD, by the way, like Yavin 4. And also, so at first I felt about a U-Wing showing up for the second time suddenly. But now, is that U-Wing the U-Wing that's used in Rogue One?
That's an interesting question. I don't think so, because it feels like the one that we have with. I mean, I think that Cassian and K2SO, like that U-Wing seems like their home. And we see other U-Wings from whatever cell that is at Yavin 4. And that's the other thing to remember. We don't see all the rebels that we see in Rogue One at Yavin 4 right now. They haven't combined. They haven't brought everyone together. Which makes me wonder if that's kind of where they're heading with this, because we still have yet to see X-Wings in this season of Rebels yet. And we know there's definitely X-Wings on Yavin 4 when Rogue One happens. And we know from trailers that X-Wings are going to show up this season. But Mon Mothma's there, but not everybody's appeared. We just have really Mon Mothma and Dodonna on Yavin 4. They haven't really collected the way they have in Rogue One yet.
I love her name, by the way, Mon Mothma. It's so cool. All right, so and that's in my notes. When she's on Yavin 4, I have Rogue One and question marks, because that's one of my theories, and I think Christopher and I had the same theory. But the episode 8 changes all of that, because in episode 8, Crawl Commander, not Star Wars episode 8, but Rogue One episode 8. So Rebels on their base. Rebels set up a new base in Loth, pretty much on the other side of the planet, and they spot a ore crawler, and they're trying to get a message to Hera to tell her, look, this is what's going on. The Empire's plant is actually bigger than we thought. So we need you guys to come in and help destroy it. Like, they're doing more damage to the planet than we thought. So we need you. We need the help of the Rebel Force or Rebel Alliance to come through and help us fight this. So we go back to Yavin 4, and Hera's trying to convince the rebels, the Rebel Alliance, like, hey, look, we need to go and we need to make this thing happen. I saw this TIE. I mean, you guys have seen the flight computer of that TIE Defender, and you cannot destroy. It's harder to destroy. So why are we talking about this? Why don't we just mobilize, go over there and destroy everything? And they're like, look, we would love to, but right now we can't. I mean, we don't even have the numbers. So to mobilize right now is not, again, military, military words. To mobilize, to go to Lothal and do what you're asking us to do doesn't make any sense. And I 100% agree. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
They shouldn't go?
I think it doesn't make any sense. Again, you don't have.
So I don't want them to. I'm a little upset because I think they're gonna go and blow up the TIE Defenders and have a victory. And I think it's going to be sold as like this good thing, as in if they hadn't have done that, then the TIE Defenders would have been at the Battle of the Death Star.
Yes.
Basically, the Battle of the Death Star would have gone differently because these TIE Defenders would have wiped out the fleet that took out the Death Star.
Yeah.
My guess is that's the direction we're headed, right? Because there's so many things that Rebels do that you're like, oh, they did this so that this would happen, and they did this so that this would happen, right? But that opening crawl of episode 4 like makes it clear that this is that Rogue One's battle is the first time they've had a victory.
Right.
Well, and no. Because if that was the case, Patrick, then the Rebels have already had plenty of victories all season long. The Rebel Alliance hasn't been unified yet. Think about it.
I'm driving, so I can't see the text, but if you look at the text, it seems so clear that something like them being able to blow up these defenders shouldn't. I don't know.
So have you seen the trailer for next week's episode yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw.
So we see like what, 4 or 5 Star Destroyers, a bunch of Arquitecton cruisers. There's no way the Rebels are destroying all of those. And them blowing up one factory that is part of a secret weapons development that is a pet project of Thrawn isn't a victory on a galactic
Star
scale.
Destroyers and have like a.
But
I don't think them blowing up a single factory that's part of a weapons project that Thrawn has, that in the end the Empire decides not to pursue, is seen as a victory on a galactic scale. At the Battle of Scarif, they managed to destroy 2 Star Destroyers, steal the plans, and generally escape out from underneath Vader's nose. That's a victory. But even that doesn't even really seem like the victory that, because if we go back to A New Hope and we have that kind of CEO table scene with all these Imperial admirals talking, and one of them mentions that they shouldn't underestimate the Rebel fleet, that even seems out of place with the battle at Rogue One, because how many ships did the Rebels lose? And they had to run. I mean, they killed 2 Star Destroyers, but Vader shows up and crushes what's left of them.
I guess that's what I mean. As long as they don't have a resounding victory and like take out those Star Destroyers or something.
And if they take out the Star Destroyers, I definitely think you have a point there. I don't think they will. I think they're going to get lucky to destroy this factory and pull out, which is about the scale of what they've always done. They blow up facilities here and there. They're terrorists in the Imperial viewpoint, right? I mean, they show up and they blow things up and then run away. That's what they do.
Maybe you're turning me. Maybe you're changing my mind. I want to make sure that that's fine. And then it's cool because they're like, we took out these defenders. If we hadn't taken out these defenders, then there's no way Luke could have blown up the Death Star. I see where.
Yeah, and I think it's more about taking out the defenders' plant. There might be, a couple defenders that they beat with the X-Wings because we haven't seen them, so it might be this big deal like, oh, here's these new Rebel ships that have better firepower and shielding, and they help take out this factory. And then I think that's their victory. It'll be interesting to see what else happens on Loth. That's my big question. It isn't so much the defender thing, but what's this bigger thing that seems to have even the Force, like using this Loth Wolf, pulling Kanan and Ezra there. I think it's bigger. I think it's bigger than the Defender, and I'm not sure we know what that is yet.
Well, what do you think it is, Mr. Kyle?
Oh, I mean, my fear is that it's going to be just like a big kyber crystal or something, which would be kind of lame. I don't know. I mean, they'll probably try and tie it back into the Death Star, or it could just be the destruction of a planet.
They already got the kyber crystal for the Death Star, right? They get it from the place where Rogue One, that planet they go to.
It takes more than one kyber crystal, and that's the thing, is they're raiding Jedi temples everywhere. And we know there was a Jedi temple on Lothal, right?
Yes,
Since the very first episode, actually, the first 1 or 2, one of those transports at the very beginning of Rebels had a large kyber crystal on it. And they destabilize it, and it destroys that transport. So they've been seeding this idea of the Empire playing with kyber crystals and collecting them from all over the galaxy from the very beginning of Rebels.
I forgot
that might be a point. So that in that case, well, I guess I could temper my annoyance because again, I really don't want them to go save. I would have the way I look at it is I would hope that it would take some time before what's her name? I was hoping that it would take some time before Hera convinced the rebel council to go to Lothal. Like the ground troops on Lothal would be doing their their things and trying to buy time for Hera to convince them. Maybe like 2 or 3 more episodes, but it looks like it's happening next week.
Yeah, it's
or it looks like it's
I think of it as as a desperate kind of just a real quick, almost Black Ops airstrike, right? We're gonna bring in a few fighters. We're just gonna hit this factory and we're gonna pull out.
Like that, I'm okay with it. But if it's like a full scale fight to win kind of thing, I'm less okay with it. So
yeah,
you might have convinced me.
Okay.
So I guess we have
weird how they said they were gonna use this giant rig as like a base or something. I don't understand what's going on.
In this episode, Bazago was
the crawler was all about the antenna. They just needed to communicate.
Yes, they just needed the antenna.
I thought at the end of the episode they made it sound like they were going to stay on there and use it as some sort of base.
No, Bazago was going to make money with it. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, they gave the crawler to Bazago, and everyone else is just back on the rebel base. And I think we're able to convince some of the prisoners on the crawler to join them in whatever mission it is. But at the end of the day,
I love they wanted to follow Zeb. That was my favorite thing, though. Like, we want to follow the big purple guy because he was the one that beat up the Trandoshan after Kanan got his butt kicked. So
you would know the awesome race. I was like, what is the lizard? What's the bounty hunter? Who's that?
Bosk.
I was like, oh, it's a Bosk alien.
Yeah, he's Trandoshan, and actually the captain is another Trandoshan. They don't look a lot alike, but they're supposed to both be Trandoshans.
All right.
That's actually really fantastic. So, I mean, I think there's nothing really more to talk about it because that is pretty much the whole episode is they needed the antenna from the crawler to send a message to Hera and let her know that she needs to come, she needs to double back like ASAP and come help them out or come destroy it. So those are the 4 episodes that we had. I mean, that was pretty quick going through all 4 of them. Do you want to discuss the episode at length, or do you want to just, is there anything you want to talk about? Because I in this last episode, in episode 8, I feel like Ezra did something where I kind of see like he might start to go heel, where he killed the captain or he let the captain die. Is he supposed to do that?
And he kind of smirked a little bit when he fell into that fire. It was kind of dark.
It was kind of dark. It was darker than I expected Rebels to go, but he totally, let's just say he didn't mourn the death of that guy.
But he didn't actively push him into the fire either. So we have this interesting thing where he didn't quite kill him, but he kind of took some sadistic pleasure in
that all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the friggin' time. Oops.
If you trip on your own feet while I'm punching you in the teeth and you fall and break your neck, I didn't necessarily kill you. Yeah, it says something like that. But what caught me off guard was, again, like you said, the smirk. He saw that the captain was going to step on the saber and was going to fall into it, and he's like, should I warn him? Nah, I'll just let him do it. And he just let him do it, and he fell. And I'm like, oh, okay, well.
He's going to go dark. Is he going dark?
It's looking like I'm starting to think he might. I'm starting to think something is going to happen. Everyone is going to die, or he's just not going to be able to save people, and that's going to be his push. He goes dark because he feels like the same way Anakin.
The same way Anakin went dark. Ezra is Snoke. There it is.
You think so?
Oh no, he's not Snoke.
No, not at all. But I think it's a hilarious theory.
It is. It is funny. Oh man, Patrick, you're gonna get the comment section really live with that one.
Ezra,
yes.
Well, I will tell you where to direct the hate comments to Patrick. So when you're typing up those comments, those hate comments, send them to Patrick, not myself or Kyle. Okay, but
I have to be honest. So I gotta leave here in a minute. So I'm just gonna give a quick summary of those 4 episodes.
Go ahead.
They were okay, but to be honest, I was a little bit bored.
Really?
Yeah. It had moments. It had moments where I was laughing and stuff, but not a lot happened.
See, and I feel the opposite.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you on that because I think it's more of the setup of what those episodes are setting up. With Kanan, one with the Loth Wolf, calling his actual name, and with Lothal and Hera. I think there's a lot. What these episodes did was set up a lot. Maybe the first two. The last two episodes 7 and 8, the one with the crawler and the one with the Loth Wolf and going to the other side of the planet. I think those two are the better ones, and they did a lot of setup, in my opinion. What were you going to say, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same thing. I feel like they've gotten through in these episodes now all of the stuff that at the beginning of the season, based on trailers and stuff, all the stuff I was pretty confident was going to happen. They're actually through pretty much all of that now. And I'm like, wow, we still have another half of a season to go. And I'm not sure where they're going to go with that. And I find that exciting. I felt like the stuff with the Loth Wolves and the Force drawing them to Lothal in a very kind of like mystical way that they don't know yet was all very interesting to me and very much moved the plot. Like, I feel like they're quickly tying up all the predictable stuff in Lothal very quickly. And that actually made me happy. I thought they were going to maybe draw some of this out a little bit longer. And it doesn't look like they're going to, and I think that's good in my opinion.
But one reason why they've already covered most of the stuff in the trailer is we only have like 2 more episodes before the season break, right?
1 before the season break.
Wait, it's not a double episode?
It's not going to be double?
Unless it's longer, there's only 1 episode, which is Rebel Assault, I think is the title of next week's episode. So unless it's
what do you thought about this format where we get 2 episodes a week?
I think it's what the show always should have been. I think it shows the problem they had with the time constraints, which is why a lot of, I think, for me in the past, some Rebel episodes have felt kind of underbaked a little bit. They didn't have quite enough time to really develop things the way they wanted to, and felt a little rushed. I think these 2 episode arcs are closer to really, I mean, it shows that their episodes should have been more like 40 minutes to actually tell the type of stories they wanted to.
True. But Anthony, again, he's not on here, but I'm just going to say what he said in the chat. He said, it looks like they're doing this because, no, this wasn't in the chat. This was when you left during Star Trek. He said 4 episodes because they want to get a lot of information out before we get to the movie coming out in December. That it might have stuff that might tie into that movie.
I hope so. That would be fantastic.
And I hope not, because
with Force Awakens.
And I hope not, because again, my Black Cow has been going so well. No, seriously, I don't think you guys understand. I'm blacked out from anything Star Wars.
It's not gonna be,
I don't know how that's possible, man.
Dude,
especially running like a nerd podcast website, you're screwed, dude.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. When they start ramping up their marketing, and if Anthony's theory is right, and they're actually doing stuff to send all this information out that might tie into that, I will just have to, cave, and I will hate the fact that I'll cave, but I will cave.
I think if anything, it's something about the nature of the Force. If there's any like quote unquote like spoilers or tie-ins, I think it'll be more about the nature of the Force and something about the Jedi and their past, or how they connect to the Force with what we're seeing with Kanan and this Loth Wolf and what's happening on Lothal, as opposed to like a direct tie-in to one of the characters.
No, but that's what I feel like I don't want to get spoiled, because I think it was after watching the first trailer, and Patrick again was trying to talk about the second trailer. I didn't see anything. This was in the chat. Him and Anthony were going at it, and I'm like, oh my god. And I think he said something, and I was like, no, this is where I have to log. I left the chat. And I was like, this is what I have to get out, because I am not getting spoiled. So,
all right.
Again,
but Kyle's
I think it was very Force sensitive too. Huh?
Kyle's on.
Yes, it was the one. It was the one. You were like, hashtag I was right. I was like, oh my god,
yeah.
thank God. Oh my god, thank God.
He's on my side. So that's why we need Anthony here, because me and Kyle, because Anthony disagrees with me. So me and Kyle can argue with Anthony for.
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah,
I think if the next couple of episodes have to tie into the Force connection to that, I won't be doing. I'll let you guys run it. I will not be doing the discussion with you guys.
No. This is what we should do, Mo. You should do an episode before The Last Jedi where we just make predictions, and then an episode.
You should do an episode before The Last Jedi.
I don't think they're gonna go into the nature of the Force before The Last Jedi. I think they're dropping all of these hints. They're foreshadowing. They're setting it up. I think they're gonna I think they're gonna finish the TIE Defender thing next week. And then we're going to have kind of the wrath of Thrawn, his anger, kind of his revenge, sending Rook after them more. So we get more of him in it. And then we're really going to get into this, what else is going on in Lothal. And that's going to wait till after the film so that they don't spoil anything for the movie.
All right, then I'm fine with that. Then I'll be perfect. Then I guess I could sit in on the episode where you guys drop your I'll just ask questions and you guys get to talk about it.
I got to say one more thing before I got to get off.
No problem.
I really miss the Inquisitor. Thrawn is awesome. I wish I had Thrawn and the Inquisitor.
That would be super OP.
One of the things that Thrawn lacks is a physical menace. And they keep trying to... All of the physical menaces are kind of like... I don't know. A stormtrooper could never be the Inquisitor. And it felt like with Rock, they were trying to give us a sort of physical menace. But it's like... I just miss the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor added something that has never quite been... It was a little bit okay when we had the pseudo-Inquisitor trio or whatever. But we've never... The Inquisitor was a really good thing for Rebels that I miss. And I think I understand why the Inquisitor is gone, because one of the other things, we were talking about how Lothal, we see that dramatic shift over the years now that we've gotten to see.
Yes.
And one of the things we start with is like there are still people hunting Jedi and killing Jedi at the start of Rebels. And now that's like not even a thing. Like the Jedi are dead.
Which is funny.
It's like that we've already seen that that mental shift on the Empire's part. Like they don't care. Like, so what? You've got this guy that's like, you've got, Kanan or whatever. No big deal. We don't care anymore.
Right, exactly.
That's actually really all. Yeah, it's crazy.
Physical menace of the Inquisitor.
And that's I can agree with you on that, because right now we don't get the epic battles of like say Kanan versus the Inquisitor or Kanan and Ezra, because again they never almost won. They never really beat him. It'd be more like a narrow escape or narrow victory, and that I miss. Seeing so I do agree with you, but I do like Thrawn's psychological just
awesome. I love Thrawn. Yeah, I want Thrawn plus the Inquisitor. Like that would have been amazing for them.
Well, that would be super OP. I don't think if you had Thrawn in the...
It's like a miniature version of the Emperor and Darth Vader, right?
Yeah, but I think you've made a good point too, though, that one of the things that they're doing is they're setting Rebels up to be about a bigger picture. So when it starts, it's much more intimate. It's much more specific and individual. It's just these few people. It's their very personal stories. The Inquisitor is a very personal enemy for them. It's a direct personal threat. And as the show's gone on, it's become much more about a bigger picture, about more things beyond themselves. And I think Thrawn is the ideal villain for that kind of galactic chess game that's going on between the Rebellion and the Empire.
Making good points, Kyle.
No, because I'm sitting here listening like, maybe he's right. Like
and I love the Inquisitor, and I actually wish the Inquisitor maybe stayed for like one more season, and kind of a little bit more of a blend over with Seventh Sister and that kind of a thing, because I kind of feel like Star Wars has a bad habit of killing some of its best villains early, like Maul dying so quickly. I mean, they brought him back, but I mean, the Inquisitor was a fantastic villain. But I do think at the point we're at in the show, Thrawn makes really good sense.
I
kind of feel like Patrick, stop making good points. Just
stop. I brought Kyle along.
Because he's making so many good points right now. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, I thought it'd be a good foil to Anthony, because they both know more about Star Wars. It will be scary if they get on an episode together, because with their knowledge combined, it's going to be sick.
It'll be like a Sith holocron and a Jedi holocron. Great things happen when you combine those together, right?
Yeah.
It will be.
So
And
hoping,
definitely the fifth holocron.
yes.
But I'm going to cut out at some point, so I just want to say bye. I'll be here for a few more seconds, but I'm about to go into a
Oh,
dead
I
zone.
was actually about to close up because I feel like we did a good job today, and hopefully, I'm not sure if we go next week or maybe we go 2 more weeks. What do you guys think?
Well, if there's only one more episode, I mean, can we wait 2 weeks before we do the episode? But obviously, there's only going to be one episode to talk about.
Yeah, so if it's
Yeah.
only one, I feel like we could come back next week and do it maybe earlier. But it depends on what you guys think. But thank you again, Kyle, for coming. I really
Thanks for
hope
having
you
me. It
come
was
back.
awesome.
It was no, you were awesome. Thanks again for being here. Thank you, Patrick, for bringing a friend. It's always awesome. Patrick's friends are like super awesome anytime they come on the show. I think that we had Ziggy last week for our comic book episode, Michaela a while back for our Halloween episode. So yeah, Patrick's friends are actually fun. So I think Earth 2 likes Patrick's friends. So, ask Patrick to bring more friends. So that'll be awesome. Thank you.
We got to bring the West Coast.
So yeah. Thank you again for coming, Kyle. Thank you, Patrick, for hanging
Thanks for
out
having
with us for a little bit. Again, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate everything you guys do for Earth 2. I am sorry, I'm really slacking on the content lately. It's a lot has been going on. So, but I promise maybe at the start of the week, I will, continue with the content that I give you guys with the comic book stuff. I haven't really done a lot of my book reports for the Dark Knight's Metal, but I'm going to come back with those coming back from next week. Again, Mondays is our Discovery Talks. We always, we try to push those out every Monday. And again, maybe next week or 2 more weeks, I'll let you guys know on our social media. So check out our social media, Earth 2 Comic Cast, Facebook and Twitter, where we're going to be dropping announcements based on whether we're coming back next week to continue with this or we'll come back in 2 more weeks. Again, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Patrick. It's been your boy Mo Crosby from Earth 2. Keep listening, keep watching. Go for your long boxes. Peace.